You know, it's safe to say that even in his lowest moments, back when he was a teen surging, that Joseph Boyden never imagined where he'd end up. And what a star. His first novel, 3-Day Road, the story of two Cree men in the First World War, international bestseller. His second, which also drew on his Ojibwe heritage, was called Through Black Spruce. It uncovered the harsh reality of modern Aboriginal life, won a Giller Prize. But here's the thing. There was a time when Joseph was totally lost. 16 years old, suffering from depression, tried to end his life. And then two things happened. He discovered punk rock and got serious about writing, and I suppose a whole lot of luck as well. It helped. He roamed the U.S. like a modern-day Kerouac, found his voice as a writer who's taken on the big questions in our history, and they don't get bigger than his new one. It's called the Orenda, a bloody, at times brutal fictional account of the wars that gave rise to our nation.
I love this guy. Please welcome back to the show, Joseph Boyden. Young man. Good to see you again. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
And you.
See you at a rock and roll show. See you here. So tell people who don't know what Orenda is. It's your book, but tell them what the concept of Orenda is.
Orenda is what? Then they're not going to read the book.
No, listen, they're going to read the book. First of all, lovely birch trees everywhere, but just the idea of spirit and where it can take hold.
Orenda is the idea, the First Nations belief, specifically here, the Haudenosaunee belief and the Wendat belief that everything in life has its own soul. The Christians believe that only humans can contain a soul. These people believe...
Are you suggesting Christians hate puppies?
Not that they hate them, they just don't believe that puppies will follow you to heaven.
Right, which sucks.
So,
Who wants to go?
Well, exactly.
To me, heaven is a bunch of puppies just running around, biting. That's amazing.
But Orenda is the idea that not just humans have soul, but everything in nature. Trees, bodies of water. Lake Ontario has its own Orenda. You walk outside and a sparrow flies down. It has its own soul, its own belief, its own Orenda.
Does the concept of Orenda resonate with you in your daily life?
Absolutely, because it's very similar to, you know, my family. I'm a mixed blood family. I grew up very kind of Irish Catholic, suburban Toronto, you know, but part of my family is Anishinaabe, is Ojibwe, and part of that is this idea of nature and the natural and the Manitou, which is the Orenda, the idea that everything in our world is imbued by its own spirit, and you recognize that and you thank it.
Growing up, you know, like Irish Catholic in Toronto in that era, when did you start to identify more with your, you know, the First Nation roots?
14, 15, 16, when I was really getting rebellious and into my kind of punk stage. I was actually going to I think I've told you this story before. Oh, yeah. Where'd you find that?
Look, right? Look at this picture. Let's put it on the screen here. You know what's interesting about this? So the Iroquois, the Mohican, you have that, but you're going to a school called Brebeuf, who the Iroquois went to town on.
Well, this is why for years I tried to get kicked out of my Catholic high school, Brebeuf. Brebeuf was one of the martyrs, the Catholic Jesuit martyrs, who was tortured to death by the Haudenosaunee people in 1649, and that's kind of the climactic moment of this novel. Not that Brebeuf is the character, but he's certainly inspired by. And so I was going to this school, and I look back now on Jesuit high school, and I think, what amazing educators, powerful, amazing people, but I was so rebellious, I just wanted to get kicked out. It took me 4 years, and I finally figured out how to do it. I did everything.
Wait, 4 years is also how long it takes to graduate, bro.
No, it was 5 at the time, but that's how old I am, but there's still a grade 13. But for 4 years, I thought, how am I going to do this? And I tried, and I thought, oh, wait a second, I'm into the punk rock. I'll cut my hair into the Mohawk, and the Mohawk people, you know, the Iroquois people are the ones who tortured Brebeuf to death, so if I do this, they'll get the message.
So it was your conscious choice.
Yeah.
And did it work?
It worked. Well, they gently asked me to leave, not so much as kicked me out. Wow, where are you getting these?
Well, talk to me about this, young gentleman.
Great.
Number 55, Joseph Boyden.
Captain of the football team.
Look at the smiley face here. Look at this guy.
Yeah, that's me as a young, this is me at 13, 14, this is me at 15.
Do you know at this point that you have this creativity that has to come out?
I do, but I don't know how to contain it or control it. And what ended up happening to me is I was suffering from depression as a kid, and I freely talk about it now. But it was something that you didn't talk about, that was bad, that you know, was a weakness. But I was depressed. I became suicidal. Like, I'm captain of the defense of my football team, and you know, we're doing great, and I become really, really depressed, and I ended up trying to kill myself on my 16th birthday, and. And I've written something for CBC about this and talked about it because I hope that my story, even if it changes one young person's view on what they're going to do and stops them from doing it, it's worth me saying it's not a weakness. This is something that affects you, a number of us. And you know, and I say, what if I had actually done it? And I was serious about it. I jumped in front of a car, like a moving car coming down the street, and it ran me over. And the only reason I lived is because the undercarriage of the car captured, it was on my birthday, Halloween is my birthday, it was, the undercarriage of the car captured my jacket and dragged me rather than the second wheel running me over. Otherwise, I would have been dead for sure. But I died a number of times. My heart stopped on the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And I think to myself, no, what if I had done it? Like, I would never write these novels. I wouldn't get to know, you know, I wouldn't be on TV. It's like, but more importantly, it's the little things in life, you know, just getting to spend this kind of wonderful existence with my wife and our dog down in New Orleans, and just all of these things that I would not have experienced. So I really, really, you know, I came out very nervously with a, you know, to admit that I tried to kill myself more than once, and I'm so happy I didn't.
People talk about in the moment that you make the decision to do that, you instantly regret it.
Oh, God, yeah. I didn't even have a chance to regret it. I regretted it afterwards.
How conscious were you?
I immediately, it was such a violent kind of collision that I was out. The first memory I have is opening my eyes just for a second in intensive care and trauma and seeing my mum, Blanche, who is this incredible woman who's raised all of us children single-handedly because my father passed when I was young. And Blanche looking over me, my mum, and a teardrop. I remember tears hitting my face like rain, and realizing, what did I do?
What was the first conversation with your mom like after that?
It was tough because, again, it was a matter of we didn't know how to address this or approach this. It was you know, it must have been a mistake. Look at you, you're handsome, Joseph, and you're popular, and you're all these things. And I'm like, no, I'm nothing, I'm worthless, you know? And that's the weird thing about depression, about youth, and so many of us face this when we're at those turbulent years, you know?
Well, we're thankful.
It was tough, it was tough.
Part of the reason why you're able to write so beautifully about the world around us is because you realize you may have missed it?
You know, I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, I think that's a lovely, poetic way to put it. I cherish each day that I have now, and I cherish my big, beautiful, loud, nutty family around me, and I'll admit that, you know, I still suffer at times from the darkness, I call it. But you know, this is why I write in order to free that, to get rid of that darkness. And you can see the darkness comes into these books, you know, into my books. But it's a way of freeing myself, and that's what saved me when I was a teen. You know, I wrote poetry, horribly angst-ridden poetry as a teenager that I would never show anyone. And
come on.
I didn't until I got to university and took it a little more seriously and started publishing some, but I wouldn't show any of it to anyone. But that's what kind of, it was the release. It was the way of allowing that pent-up frustration and anger just to come out, and so it was great.
Stick around, more with Joseph right after this.
When we get back to our conversation with Joseph, you know, what's it like for a Canadian living in the U.S. to tell the world our stories?
Back here with Joseph Boyden, a man who is so generously written about Canada. Do you feel like you're out there representing who we are, living in America and writing books that are international?
I'm never so big-headed as to think that I'm representing something as big and beautiful as this country, but certainly I want to have my say, you know? I want to be that bridge between, and I've been told I'm that bridge between, by some important people, between two cultures that or many cultures that don't often get along, you know, or see eye to eye.
What's your favorite childhood memory from Willowdale?
Favorite childhood memory, going to the ravine. There was a great ravine right by our house, and tobogganing there in winter, and then wandering through and playing soldiers with my brothers and I and friends in summer.
Which side were you on?
Always the Canadian Army.
Yeah.
My dad was a doctor in the Army, so yeah.
You were representing him?
I was representing my dad.
Fighting for him?
Yeah.
What a pleasure to see you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Joseph Boyden, everybody. Book is called Orenda. We'll be right back.